I'm sorry. I'll see her later. Lie here alone and get some sleep in the sumptuous hotel suite where time seemed to stand still in silence. During my wedding night, which should have been the happiest of my life, the merciless words of my husband, with whom I had exchanged vows of eternal love just hours before, cut through the air. I had just taken off my immaculate wedding dress and was preparing to let out a sigh of relief, but he, leaving me alone, calmly grabbed the doorknob. There was no shadow of guilt or regret on his back. No doubt, he expected me to throw myself at his feet, crying, pleading for him not to leave. But at that moment, I couldn't even imagine that by opening the door to that room he was pulling the trigger that would destroy his entire life, and that the next morning, my predictable tears would not await him, but a completely unimaginable ending. The clock read a little past 11 p.m. Below, under the windows, the night city stretched out, sparkling like an overturned jewel box. A night in this suite, on the top floor of a prestigious Los Angeles hotel, cost several $1,000s. On the table, a top-shelf bottle of champagne and an elegant fruit platter, a treat from the hotel. It had only been a few hours since we had received congratulations from hundreds of guests at an opulent wedding banquet. A torrent of congratulations. May you be very happy rained down on us, and we smiled tirelessly at family and friends. Exhausted both physically and mentally, we were finally alone. I wanted to smile, but at that very moment, my husband, Adrian, instead of the tuxedo he had just taken off, grabbed his jacket from the closet and, with a habitual gesture, put it on. "What do you mean, I'll see her?" I asked, trying to speak as calmly as possible. I knew perfectly well whom Adrian was talking about, but I couldn't help but ask. "What don't you understand? I'm going to see Veronica. Of course, she hasn't stopped calling me all afternoon. She's hysterical because I got married. She won't stop crying on the phone. If I leave her alone now, she's capable of doing anything stupid." Veronica, or Vera, was the name of his ex-girlfriend with whom he had been dating for 5 years before meeting me. Even when our relationship became serious with a view to marriage, Adrian continued to meet with her occasionally. "She's weak. Without me, she falls apart. You can't just leave her like that suddenly. It's cruel." That was his argument. "Today is our wedding day, and this is our wedding night. To leave your wife alone in a hotel to go with your ex?" In response to my question, Adrian just sighed with irritation and measured me with a look from head to toe, then smiled disdainfully. "Look, you really should get rid of that scowl. You're my legal wife now, so behave yourself and don't make a scene. Besides, you're a strong woman. With personality, you can manage on your own, but Vera is different." The insults flowed from his mouth one after another, and I just listened in silence. Unlike you, an aggressive 3-5-year-old executive who's used to doing everything herself, Vera is still young, only 25, eternal and fragile. If I don't hug and comfort her, she'll break. And anyway, the wedding night is just a formality. I'll be back tomorrow, and in the meantime, drink champagne alone and sleep in this huge bed. Come on, see you later. Adrian said this so lightly, as if he were going to buy cigarettes around the corner. And since I didn't respond a word, he must have considered it a victory, thinking his ironclad arguments had disarmed me. A look of self-satisfaction appeared on his face. I simply looked at him in silence, without twisting my face in anger, without shedding tears of pain, just a calm and cold gaze. "What are you staring at so much? If you have something to say it. Although I'm leaving anyway. Vera is waiting for me." With these words, Adrian finally opened the door. The heavy sound of the door closing resonated in the silent suite, and the electronic lock clicked with a metallic sound. I was completely alone in the motionless room. A normal woman in my place probably would have thrown herself on the bed to cry or would have started throwing things in anger. But on my lips slowly appeared a silent smile. It was not a smile of despair. It was the icy grimace of certainty that everything was going according to plan. I knew it. "I was sure you would do exactly that," I whispered into the void and picked up my smartphone, which I had left on the bed. I unlocked the screen. A pre-installed app accurately tracked Adrian's cell phone GPS signal, and the red dot on the map was already blinking. The dot had left the hotel and was moving without hesitation toward Vera's rented apartment in some Los Angeles suburb. I opened my contacts and dialed a number. The call was answered on the first ring. "Yes, it's me. He just left the room, said exactly what I had predicted," I replied in a cold, firm voice, the person on the other end of the line. "Yes, everything is ready." "Excellent. We will begin the operation as planned. We will make him feel to the core the idiotic choice he made. Looking at the blinking lights of the night city, I felt the flame of revenge that I had been preparing for months ignite in my chest. What kind of face would my husband make when, the next morning, he returned from his mistress's house, full of self-satisfaction, and saw his face disfigured with horror and despair? Well, Adrian, the tomorrow you dream of will never come. In the silence of the hotel room, my interlocutor and I raised the curtain on relentless revenge. Yes, continue with the surveillance. If anything changes, inform me immediately. After giving the brief order, I hung up. As I left the smartphone on the table, a slight metallic sound broke the silence. The window glass reflected my image. I had changed from my wedding dress into a loose silk robe. In that reflection, there was no trace of a tragic heroine, only the face of a woman with a cold, calculating gleam in her eyes. A woman whose months-long plan had entered its final phase. My name is Sophia. I'm 35 years old and hold the position of department director at the Los Angeles headquarters of an international consulting firm. I'm proud of my work. It provides me with an excellent income. I bought myself an apartment in an upscale area and have always prided myself on my financial and emotional independence. And my husband, the one who just flew off to his ex Adrian, is 3 years younger than me. He's 32. He works as a sales manager for a mid-sized company. Pleasant to deal with an attractive face. He knows how to please people. We were introduced by mutual friends, and after a year and a half of dating, we reached today. At the beginning of our romance, Adrian admired my independence, calling me strong and worthy of respect. Sophia, I want to marry a mature woman like you, with whom we can grow together. When he proposed passionately, I was genuinely happy, and believed that with this man, we could build a quiet family as equal partners. But everything was a complete illusion. He didn't want an equal partner. He wanted a convenient sponsor who would assure him a life of luxury unattainable with his salary and status. The definitive suspicion set in about 6 months before the wedding. Despite having a lot of matters to resolve regarding ceremony preparations, buying a new apartment, Adrian was constantly distracted. When we were together, he flinched at every notification on his cell phone and wrote replies secretly, hiding the screen. The question of, who was it, yielded unconvincing lies, problems at work, helping an acquaintance from out of town. My intuition, sharpened by years in the business world, sounded the alarm. In secret, I contacted a trusted detective agency. The results were not just bad, they were worse than night. Adrian, all this time, even after starting to date me, had continued his relationship with his ex, Vera. Vera was 25 years old, worked as a freelancer, and, it seemed, lived mainly at Adrian's expense. The report included photographs. In them, it was seen how, during one of my business trips, he took Vera to my apartment and, worst of all, they slept in my bed. Sophia is a cold career woman. Only with Vera can I relax. So why are you going to marry that old woman? For the money and comfort. Besides, at home she does everything perfectly. I can spend all my salary on myself and support you without worries. When I read the conversation between Adrian and Vera that the detectives obtained, I felt my blood boil in my veins with pure rage. The money for the wedding, the down payment for the new apartment I had paid for everything. He planned to use my fortune and status as a facade while enjoying life with his young mistress behind my back. A normal woman in my place would have broken off the engagement, demanded compensation, and that would have been the end of it. But I acted differently. The invitations had already been sent out. My bosses, important business partners, and, of course, my strict parents were expected to attend the wedding. Canceling the wedding at that stage due to the groom's infidelity would not only dishonor me, but also cause a lot of problems and worries around me. And most importantly, my pride would not allow these two, Adrian and Vera, to get off so easily, paying a mere compensation of a few $1,000s. But for daring to mock my life like this, you will pay dearly. I decided to pretend I knew nothing and continued with smiling wedding preparations. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, I held detailed consultations with my lawyer, setting dozens of traps for today. And today, at a sumptuous wedding, before hundreds of witnesses, I made him swear eternal love. We became husband and wife legally. All escape routes were cut off. I finished the lukewarm champagne remaining in the glass. At that moment, my smartphone vibrated on the table. It was a message from an unknown number, but I intuited who the sender was. I slowly opened the message. Hello, Sophia. I'm Vera, Adrian's real girlfriend. I'm sorry you were left alone on your wedding night, but it seems Adrian can't live without me. That's why he came running. And you, old woman, sleep peacefully in your expensive bed. A provocative and mocking text. It attached a photograph. Adrian, with a carefree smile, lying on Vera's apartment bed. It was an open challenge to me, his wife. But upon seeing that photo, a dry snort escaped my lips. How stupid. She doesn't even realize she's hanging herself with her own rope. I took a screenshot and sent it to the evidence folder. The enemy was completely relaxed. They believed they were throwing stones from a safe refuge, reveling in their victory. But they still didn't know that when they woke up tomorrow, that safe refuge would have turned into the bottom of a hellish cauldron. Well, I'm looking forward to tomorrow morning. Enjoy your last moment of happiness. As I whispered this in the darkness of the night, my cell phone rang again. This time it wasn't a message, but a call. Upon seeing the name on the screen, I frowned for an instant, then slowly pressed the answer button. Hello, Sophia speaking. Sorry to call at this hour. Yes, it's just that tonight. On the other end of the line was the person Adrian feared more than anything in the world and whom he never dared to contradict. It was his father, the strict and influential Mr. Richard Vargas. Mr. Richard was the head of a traditional lineage family in his region and chairman of the board of a large, respected company. He hated lies and hypocrisy, and was the only person before whom Adrian felt servile panic. In fact, during the wedding preparations, when I confirmed Adrian's infidelity, I revealed all the evidence solely to Mr. Richard and secretly obtained his support. So, that kid left you high and dry and went to that girl's house, didn't he? Mr. Richard's voice on the phone was grave and trembled with anger. Yes, Dad. His cell phone's GPS signal stopped at her house. Plus, I received a provocative message from her with a photo of Adrian sleeping. Sophia, I'm truly sorry. I'm ashamed to tears of my own son. To betray a woman as intelligent and wonderful as you, and on our wedding night, no less, is unforgivable. Dad, please don't apologize. This is the path Adrian chose. You will help me tomorrow morning as we agreed, right? Of course, this won't be a simple divorce. He will get what he deserves, including public scorn. I will personally make sure he sees what true hell is. I'll be there tomorrow morning without fail. Your support means a lot to me. Thank you very much. After hanging up, I exhaled deeply. Now, all external defenses were reinforced. From the enormous hotel window, a stunning view of sleepless Los Angeles unfolded. But even this million-dollar landscape was to me merely the backdrop of a stage. Just at that moment, as I smiled coldly, my smartphone rang stridently on the table. On the screen appeared the name Adrian, a call from him at this hour. It was unlikely. I calmly activated the call recording app and slowly pressed the answer button. Hello. Hey, old woman, are you listening to me? A sickeningly sweet and shrill female voice hit my ear. Who was calling from Adrian's phone was, as I expected, his mistress. Vera, is that you? Vera, who sent the message. What do you want from me? Calling from my husband's phone. Yeah, I just wanted to talk to you personally. You know, Adrian is sleeping next to me like a baby. I guess he's tired after the wedding. Poor thing, having to put up with an old woman like you. Vera laughed a vulgar laugh, continuing her verbal attacks. Hey, aren't you ashamed, huh? Old woman, 35 years old, alone on your wedding night because your husband ran away. You know what Adrian always says? That as a sponsor, Sophia is perfect, but as a woman, she's not exciting at all. You're like a raisin. I didn't let any emotion show on my face, maintaining absolute silence. Apparently, taking my silence as shock and admission of defeat, she became emboldened and raised her voice. What's wrong? Nothing to say? I hit the nail on the head, huh? Listen carefully. Adrian loves me, who is young and beautiful. You are just an ATM. The luxury wedding, expensive apartment, everything is just a means to our happiness. Adrian's and mine. Got it? In other words, you planned everything from the beginning to seize my assets? I asked, in a low voice, in a clarifying tone. In a trial, her own confession would become the most powerful weapon. That's right, of course. The thing is, you're slow to understand things. With Adrian's salary, I couldn't buy designer bags or take trips abroad. So, you're going to slave away like a mule to earn money, and we're going to spend it having fun. A perfect plan, isn't it? On the other end of the line, Vera laughed, absolutely sure of her victory. So, let's go. Sign the divorce papers already. Oh, and don't even think about asking for alimony. On the contrary, you made us lose our valuable time. So, leave us the apartment and all your savings as compensation. That's your last role. The pathetic, bitter old woman. Incredibly brazen and delusional demands. Any normal person in my place would have been enraged and started screaming, but my heart was as cold as Arctic ice. Pathetic old woman, you say. I couldn't help but laugh softly. Oh, what are you laughing at? Trying to act tough. How pathetic. Vera's voice became sharp and angry. It's just that it's so funny. You have no idea the fatal words you just uttered. Go on, don't try to justify yourself. Tomorrow morning, as soon as Adrian comes back, we'll start talking about the divorce. And you, in the meantime, spend the night crying into your pillow. You fool. After saying that, she hung up abruptly. The inert dial tone resonated in the spacious suite. With the tip of my finger, I slowly slid the save recording button on the screen. Thank you, Vera. Thanks to your infinite stupidity. Now I have the perfect proof. She rejoices in victory, thinking that tomorrow morning she will snatch everything from me. But neither she nor Adrian know that when the sun rises and they appear in this room, they will not be met by a wife broken by pain, but by the scene of an execution that will destroy their lives to the foundations. And for this scene, those with whom they least wish to meet have already been invited. The next morning, at 8 sharp, the heavy suite door suddenly opened. Hey, Sophia, are you still sleeping? Sorry I came back so late on our wedding night. Adrian entered the room carelessly dressed in yesterday's tuxedo. An odd, excited satisfaction was etched on his face, as if after an intense night. To my surprise, brazenly behind him was the same Vera who had insulted me on the phone the night before. Good morning, Adrian, and hello, Vera. I greeted them calmly, comfortably settled on the sofa. In my hands, I held a cup of hot tea. My unperturbed attitude disconcerted Adrian for a moment, but he soon smiled smugly. Wow, I thought you would have spent the night crying, but I see you're holding up well. Oh, let me introduce you to Vera, as I told you yesterday, my true partner. Beside him, Vera, with an expensive shawl over her shoulders that seemed to have come from my own closet, gave me a triumphant smile. Hello, Sophia. I hope my call yesterday reached you, you know? Adrian hugged me all night. He didn't leave my side for a second. For you, old woman, such a passionate night doesn't even happen in dreams. Vera inspected the suite curiously, twisting her lips in disdain. Wow, what a huge suite. Dear Adrian, from today, let this be our room. For that old woman, any fifth-rate boarding house will do. Oh, that's not a bad idea. Hey, Sophia, did you hear what Vera said? You're always wrapped up in your work. As a woman, no appeal. Yesterday I was convinced of it. I need a young and sweet girl like Vera. So, for your luck, the conversation will be brief. Sign the divorce papers right now. Adrian threw a crumpled divorce petition form on the table. Divorce? Are you serious? Of course, living your whole life with such an unfeminine woman like you is torture, not a marriage. Oh, I'm telling you, the apartment and all the savings stay with us as compensation. And you? You're a businesswoman. You'll earn more anyway. In Adrian's words, there was no longer any hint of decorum. It was blatant malice, devoid of the slightest respect for another person. I stared him fixedly in the eyes, in silence. He interpreted my silence as a sign of despair and shock. What's wrong? Struck dumb? What a pathetic spectacle. Where did all your confidence from yesterday go? In the end, when a man leaves you, you're nothing more than an old woman no one wants. Adrian, scoffing, pulled Vera by the waist and ostentatiously kissed her on the shoulder in front of me. Come on, sign! Or are you so shocked you can't even hold the pen? Well, these things happen. Poor ex-wife, abandoned on her wedding night. The torrent of insults fell on me like heavy rain. Vera echoed, applauding and laughing. It's true, you look like a ghost. But they didn't realize. They didn't understand why I was so calm. And they didn't know that behind the closet door in that very room, there was a shadow listening to every one of their words and trembling with rage. Adrian, can I ask you a question? Oh, go ahead. But I won't accept pleas for mercy. How do you intend to explain all this to your father? At the mention of that name, Adrian's face instantly paled. My father? What does my father have to do with this now? He has nothing to do with it. To that stubborn old man, I'll say you cheated on me and left home. He always takes my side. Do you really believe that? I set the cup on the saucer. The slight click was the signal for the counterattack to begin. I'll sign as you ask. But first, why don't you greet our guests? I pointed to the door leading to the bedroom. The door slowly opened. Upon seeing who came out, Adrian's pen fell, hitting the carpet with a dull thud. The heavy bedroom door opened slowly with an oppressive pause. From it emerged the person Adrian feared more than anything in the world, his father, Mr. Richard Vargas. Dad, why? Why are you here? Adrian's voice failed, and the divorce petition slipped from his fingers, floating in the air. Mr. Richard stood motionless, his face as severe as a statue. Behind him appeared my parents and then the commercial director, Adrian's direct boss, with a cold stare. Mr. Richard, Vera stammered beside him. Faced with such a scene, she instantly cowered, and all her brazenness evaporated. She probably imagined Adrian's father as a kindly old man, but before her stood a true titan, one of the pillars of the region's business world. Adrian, what did you just say? Every word from Mr. Richard was like an icy needle piercing Adrian. No. You said you would lie, that you would say Sophia was unfaithful and left. Are you stupid enough to believe your father is an idiot? Mr. Richard's thundering voice resonated throughout the suite. Faced with his power, Vera let out a scream of fear and hid behind Adrian. Dad, it's not like that, it's her fault, Vera. She was the one who clung to me, not me. How low you've fallen. This time it was my father who spoke. Usually calm, he was furious at how they had humiliated his only daughter and desecrated her wedding night. We know everything you said and did from last night until this morning. Sophia told us everything. There's a microphone in this room, and all your disgusting words are recorded. A microphone? Sophia, you. Adrian looked at me with disbelief. I met his gaze and replied with a cold smile. Yes, I was sure you would go see Vera. So, both last night's phone conversation and today's insults, everything is recorded. The more evidence, the better. Don't you think? You set a trap for me. How can you play so dirty? Adrian roared and tried to lunge at me. But at that moment, Mr. Richard's cane struck the carpet with force. Who played dirty here? Leaving your wife on your wedding night, having fun with your mistress, and on top of that, conspiring to take her assets. I'm disgusted that you're my son. Mr. Richard took an envelope from his pocket and threw it at Adrian's chest. This is my wedding gift for you. Open it. With trembling hands, Adrian opened the envelope, and his face instantly turned an ashen gray. It wasn't a check for a large sum. It was a letter of dismissal and a renunciation of paternity. Dad, it's a joke. Jokes, Mr. Director? Explain it to him. Mr. Richard addressed Adrian's boss, who was standing behind him. The director stepped forward. Adrian, we have suspicions that, relying on Miss Sophia's funds, you used the company's entertainment expenses for personal purposes. The trips with Miss Veronica, as we have discovered, were also paid for with the company's budget. The internal investigation has already been concluded. As of today, you are dismissed for just cause. What? Wait, I'll return everything. The money can be returned, right? Return with what money? I finally stood up from the sofa and approached Adrian. The contract for the apartment you thought you'd live in has already been cancelled. It's in my name and I managed your bank account during the wedding preparations. But I've just revoked all powers. Your balance is now zero. Zero? Yes. And yesterday night's hotel bill? And the extra banquet expenses? Everything is in your name. You no longer have help from your parents, nor your company salary, nor a home, nor my money, not a single cent. Adrian collapsed to his knees. Beside him, Vera, trembling, shook him by the shoulder, her face pale. Dear Adrian, it's not true? You told me you had money, that you would make me happy. Shut up. All this is your fault, for your stupid call last night. My fault? You were the one who told me Sophia was a fool. Mr. Richard coldly observed their ugly argument. By the way, the conversation isn't over. Sophia, tell him that secret. A secret? Adrian froze at those words. Adrian, you secretly signed an agreement with Vera, didn't you? But you weren't just hiding that. I know. I know what your real goal is. The one you were hiding, even from Vera. This time it was Vera who was petrified. A secret? What are you talking about? I don't have secrets. Adrian, bathed in cold sweat, tried to scream desperately. Beside him, Vera clung to his arm anxiously. Dear Adrian, what secret? I know everything about you. Yes. I leaned slowly against the back of the sofa and looked at them with pity. The morning light entering through the window made the luxurious chandelier sparkle, but the air in the room was as cold as a crypt. Adrian, you told Vera that your family were true magnates and that in the future, you would inherit an immense fortune. That's why, despite your low salary, your future was guaranteed. Vera looked at me in surprise. Yes, Adrian told me his father was a famous chairman of the board. Yes, Mr. Richard is an exceptional man. I cast a glance at him. Mr. Richard shook his head bitterly. Vera, I'm going to tell you the truth this man has been hiding from you. 5 years ago, Mr. Richard already disinherited Adrian once. The reason? A huge gambling debt he incurred, which he tried to cover with company money. Vera's face paled rapidly. At that time, Mr. Richard paid off his debt but imposed a condition on him. He had to renounce all his inheritance rights and start working, relying only on himself, without making any more mistakes. In other words, he doesn't have a single cent of inheritance? No, it can't be. Dad, you said that after the wedding everything would go back to normal. Adrian tried to crawl toward his father, but he pushed him away coldly with his cane. I wanted to believe in you. I thought that alongside a strong woman like Sophia, perhaps you could straighten yourself out, but the result is clear. I have not a cent left for you, not a drop of compassion. I turned to Adrian, who was trembling with despair, and said in a low voice, And another thing, Adrian, your real debt that you were hiding from me reaches $300,000. I know that too. What? How? I didn't tell anyone. I told you I'm not just a simple consultant. I took a card from the cardholder on the table and threw it in front of Adrian. On it, in addition to the name of my consulting firm, was another title. Sofia Serrano, CEO. Serrano Group. Serrano Group? It can't be the same one that, Adrian's boss exclaimed, astonished. Yes, I'm the eldest daughter of the president of the Serrano Group. I've been working at another company with a different surname because I wanted to prove my worth without my family's help. Adrian, that dubious investment plan you got into, behind it was one of my subsidiaries. Yes, from the beginning I knew that you, relying on my fortune, had secretly incurred debts worth $300,000, and that this money was intended for your fun with Vera. Everything was under control. Why do you think I agreed to marry someone like you? Adrian just opened and closed his mouth without making a sound, like a fish out of water. I didn't love you. From the beginning, I knew you approached me without knowing my origin, seeing in me only a lonely woman with money. That's why I gave you free rein to see how far you would sink. Sophia, you from the beginning. Me. Yes. I documented step by step how you and Vera conspired to take my assets. The coup de grace was your email where you wrote, I'll marry this Sophia and bleed her dry my whole life. That was the last straw. I smiled cruelly. You called me a raisin. Have you ever thought about what would happen if you set that raisin on fire? Now you're on fire, and you have nowhere to run. An oppressive silence filled the room. Vera no longer clung to Adrian but had moved a few steps away from him, as if he were something dirty. Adrian, so you're not rich? You're just a starving man, full of debts? No, Vera, it's her. Sophia set everything up to trap me. A trap. But you were the one who was unfaithful to me, who incurred debts, and who stole money from the company, I retorted coldly. At that moment, there was another knock on the door. Oh, right on time, they've arrived. The door opened, and 3 burly men in black suits entered the room. On their lapels shone the badges of a well-known collection agency. Adrian, these are your last guests. The men stood in front of Adrian. His face was no longer humanly pale. It was disfigured. But this was only the beginning. Mr. Richard! Sophia, I have nothing to do with this, Vera suddenly shouted. Adrian tricked me. He lied to me, saying he was rich. One of the men in suits interrupted her screams, handing her an envelope. Miss Veronica, there is also important information for you. Vera looked at the envelope with suspicion and, at the same instant, let out a short scream and collapsed to the floor. Vera was sitting on the floor, holding the envelope with a trembling hand. Inside was a complete list of all the gifts and expense money she had received from Adrian, along with an invoice demanding the return of everything as illegally obtained income. What? What is this? The designer bags, the expensive watches, the trip to the Maldives, the rent. Adrian gave me everything as a gift. He said it was from his salary. Why do I have to return it? Vera screamed. Her face had turned red. Of the self-assured winner from before, there was no trace left. Before us, only a cornered rat. Vera, listen carefully, I said with a voice that exuded glacial coldness. The money you received from Adrian, in reality, he either stole it from a subsidiary belonging to my family or withdrew it from my personal account without permission. In other words, the owner of that money from the beginning was me. I didn't know anything. I just accepted his gifts. I'm a good faith recipient. Good faith? Don't make me laugh. You knew Adrian was going to marry me and accepted to spend those funds on your fun. Yesterday on the phone, you clearly said that this old woman works like a mule and will have fun with her money. The recording exists. Your complicity in the embezzlement of my assets with intent is demonstrated. Vera gasped, opening her mouth without making a sound. One of the men in suits concluded in a dry professional tone, Miss Veronica, the total value of the benefit you obtained, including interest, reaches $250,000. If you do not present a payment plan today, we will be forced to seize the assets from your rented apartment and notify your parents at your tax address. Do you agree? My parents? Don't even think about it. I told you not to involve my parents in this, Adrian. Vera grabbed Adrian's chest and began shaking him, but he already looked like a zombie. His own debt of $300,000, plus the embezzlement case, and now Vera's debt. More than $500,000 collapsed on his shoulders. It can't be. It's a dream. Yesterday was the happiest wedding night. Happiness? Your happiness was a sandcastle built on others' misfortune. Adrian, I approached them. The gazes of Mr. Richard, my parents, and Adrian's boss were no longer of compassion for a human being, but those directed at trash in the gutter. And if you think this is the end, you are deeply mistaken. The problem is not just money. Mr. Director, please, this point. The director brought a tablet close to Adrian's face. On the screen was a social media feed. The video from yesterday, where you hugged Vera backstage at the banquet, as well as the evidence of your financial shenanigans, has already been anonymously spread across all key professional communities. Finding a new job in this country will be practically impossible for you. What? Adrian's eyes widened in horror. In the modern world, a digital stain never fades. No matter how handsome and articulate he was, no company would hire someone with a reputation as a thief and an unfaithful person. I added an extra dose of despair. At the banquet, among the hundreds of guests, my true friends were only a small part. The rest were hired actors, plainclothes, police officers, and members of an association of deceived women. Didn't you notice? That gentleman who shook your hand so amicably? That lady who gave the congratulatory speech? They were all relatives of women you deceived, or investigators. This means that the toasts, the congratulations, everything was a play. No. They, pretending to celebrate your brilliant future, were actually collecting your fingerprints, registering your face, and securing evidence of your thefts. You believed you were the king, but in reality, you were an animal in a cage for public entertainment. Adrian, covering his face with his hands, writhed on the floor, shaken by sobs. Vera, held by the police, tried to dodge the cameras. Don't turn off the camera. I'm not guilty. I'm a victim. Victim? Don't make me laugh. I approached her. You conspired with Adrian to take millions from my family's company. What's more, when Adrian boasted that he would work Sophia to death and take her inheritance, you laughed and listened. That audio recording is now also being broadcast to everyone. The comments in the live stream chat burned with anger. This mistress is equally criminal. Both of them, life imprisonment. Adrian, Vera, you considered me a simple, stupid career woman, an easy prey. But to me, who survived in the world of big business, your primitive malice was evident. I approached Adrian and uttered the last words to him. You said that as a woman I was not attractive, but for me, there was no greater insult than to be loved by someone like you. I accepted this marriage not because I loved you, but to destroy with my own hands a social poison like you. Sophia, please, enough. I made a mistake. I was a scoundrel. Just stop this broadcast. My life will end. Adrian rested his head on my feet, pleading between tears and snot. But even this pathetic scene was being broadcast in high definition to the whole world. End? No, Adrian. This is just the beginning. I pushed him away. You won't simply go to a cold cell. The lawsuits from all the women you deceived, from all the companies, and from your parents will fill the rest of your life until you pay. You will not have a second of freedom, not a cent for luxuries. You will pay literally until the day you die. At that moment, the face of an old man appeared on the monitor. It was Adrian's grandfather, prostrate in a hospital bed. Having a grandson like this is the greatest shame of my life. I have drawn up a will by which all my fortune passes to the Serrano family as compensation. You will not receive a single cent, not an inch of land. Rot in hell. Grandfather, wait, grandfather. Adrian's last thread of hope was mercilessly cut. He froze like a zombie with his mouth agape. Officers, please take them away. At my signal, the investigators handcuffed Adrian and Vera. The cold click of the metal resonated in the silent room. It was the sound of a death sentence, announcing that they would never be free again. Well, Adrian, do you have anything to say goodbye? I said to his back. Adrian only emitted an unintelligible murmur as they dragged him out of the room. Only Regina, my brother Matthew, and I remained in the room. It's over. I pressed the button to stop the broadcast. The comments disappeared. The screen went blank. The morning sun shone through the window. The city went about its normal life, but in my soul, there remained a certain emptiness. I had taken my revenge. I had destroyed Adrian, but I felt my heart cold. Sophia, you're pale. Maybe you should rest, Matthew said, concerned, but I shook my head. No, brother, there's one more matter. I picked up an envelope from the table that had arrived the night before, shortly after Adrian had left. It was a letter from an unexpected person, and its content was the key to the true and moving end of this story. Stop, don't record, don't come near. I'm not guilty. Adrian's pathetic scream resonated in the dazzling hotel lobby. As soon as he took a step forward, an avalanche of flashes from dozens of cameras fell on him. The man who just yesterday basked in glory as the happiest groom now became a vulgar criminal with handcuffs on his wrists. Adrian, look here. Is it true that you deceived several women for a total of several $1 million? Was it a planned conspiracy with your mistress to seize your wife's fortune? What do you say about the rumors that your own father disowned you? Faced with the barrage of questions from journalists, Adrian turned away, moving forward, almost crawling, but there was nowhere to run. Let me go! I'm a victim! He forced me! Vera screamed beside him, her hair disheveled and makeup smudged. Her ugly, disfigured face was also ruthlessly broadcast live. I watched the scene from the second-floor gallery. Beside me were Regina and several other women whose lives he had shattered. Look, this is the true face of the man you were afraid of, I said. He's so small and pathetic, one of the women replied with a trembling voice. How could I have believed such a man? Sophia, thank you. Now, we can finally start living again. In the women's eyes, there were no tears of pain, but of purification and relief. At that moment, the commotion downstairs reached its peak. They had almost put Adrian into the police car, but he stopped, looked around desperately, and found me on the second floor. Sophia! Sophia! He screamed at the top of his lungs. I made a mistake. Forgive me. You are my only hope. Make those journalists shut up. Talk to the police. You can. You are my wife. All eyes of the journalists, guests, and hotel staff turned to me. Adrian believed that if I showed the slightest doubt, he would still have a chance to save himself. I rested my hand on the balustrade, took a step forward, and pronounced with a clear, icy voice that resonated throughout the silent lobby, without the need for a microphone. Adrian, I'm going to tell you something to say goodbye. Yes, you're going to help me? No, never in my life, you trash. Adrian's face froze. From the very day you approached me, I felt nauseous at your lies. Every time you touched my hair, whispered words of love in my ear, I only thought of one thing. How to destroy you in the cruelest possible way. You called me a raisin. But what does it feel like to burn to ashes in the fire you yourself started? Sophia, on our wedding night, when you left me and went with Vera, I thanked you with all my heart. Thanks to that, I could pull the trigger that sent you to hell without the slightest doubt. Goodbye, Adrian. Tomorrow your name will forever enter history as the greatest shame in America. With a face from which his soul seemed to have departed, Adrian collapsed to the ground and was pushed into the dark interior of the police car. Then, in another car, they put Vera. Sirens wailed, and the convoy with the two criminals slowly left the hotel premises. At that moment, the entire lobby erupted in applause. It was an ovation for triumphant justice and admiration for a brilliant and devastating ending. Under these applause, I silently left the gallery. I had succeeded. I had protected the honor of the Serrano family. I had avenged the victims, and most importantly, I had defended my own dignity. But when I returned to my suite, an impending matter awaited me. I picked up the envelope from the table, the sender, Adrian's true mother, Isabel, the same one who had just disowned him, but inside there was no letter of apology. As I opened it and read the first line, I widened my eyes. It can't be. So, that's what it was about. The letter revealed the tragic secret of a noble family that had begotten a monster like Adrian and ancient promises made to my family, of which he himself knew nothing. And at the end there was a proposal I couldn't even imagine. Brother, Mr. Richard, look at this. I extended the letter to them with a trembling hand. The new truth revealed at the end of this drama led me to a completely different future. After the storm subsided, a resounding silence reigned in the suite. The morning sun filtering into the room seemed to cleanse all the dirt of yesterday's revenge, flooding everything with a white light. I was sitting on the sofa, reading with trembling fingers the letter from my ex-mother-in-law, Isabel. In it, the tragedy of a family of which even Adrian knew nothing was described, and a mother's desperate regret. Sophia, first and foremost, please accept my deepest apologies and my gratitude. Thank you for putting an end to his path as a human being. That boy was the symbol of my sin. My husband's father, Richard, was also in his time a monster who used and humiliated women. I saw that Adrian had inherited his blood, but out of a mother's love, I could not stop him in time. My weakness created that monster. Further on, the letter revealed an even more surprising truth. In reality, your deceased mother and I were best friends in our youth. Before she died, she told me, "If my daughter ever strays from the path or falls into the hands of a bad man, please help her find the strength to rise." When the idea of this marriage arose, I already knew Adrian's true nature. That's why Richard and I agreed and arranged everything so that all the evidence would reach your hands and you yourself could judge him. You exceeded all my expectations and brilliantly reclaimed your life. Sophia, you no longer need the Serrano name or titles. You have earned the right to find your own dawn, relying only on your own strength. Upon finishing reading the letter, I couldn't hold back the tears. They were not tears of pain, nor of triumph. They were tears of understanding my deceased mother's deep love and Isabel's determination, who had secretly supported me. "Sophia, may I?" A soft knock was heard, and Mr. Richard entered the room. His stern expression from yesterday had disappeared. On his face, only the quiet fatigue of an elderly father. "Father. No, Mr. Richard. Yes, that's better. We are no longer united by family ties. Adrian is taken care of by the police and lawyers. He will never reappear in your life again. And accept this, Mr." Richard handed me a notarized document. "It is compensation for the assets Adrian tried to snatch from you and for the moral damages. But that's not all. I want to transfer part of the management of my charitable foundation to you. It is a woman as intelligent and fair as you, who should become the leader who supports young generations." "How? It's too great an honor for me." "No. Yesterday, with your strength, you opened the way through hell and found the light. That strength is an incalculable treasure. Sophia. No, Sophia Serrano. Your true life begins at this very moment." "Mr." Richard gently patted my shoulder and left in silence. A year later, I work as an independent consultant in a small office overlooking the sea. I resigned from my position at the Serrano Group, choosing the path of helping those who truly need it. The management of the foundation, which Mr. Richard entrusted to me, is also going swimmingly. I invest my energies in supporting young talents. Since that day, I have not heard the names of Adrian and Vera again. According to rumors, burdened with enormous debts, they continue to serve their sentences in harsh conditions, hating and cursing each other. He who sows the wind reaps the whirlwind. Even that expression seems too mild for their fate, but I no longer have any energy left for hatred. Through the window, an infinite blue sky stretches out, and the soft murmur of the waves is heard. "Miss Sophia, may I confirm your schedule for today?" My new assistant's energetic voice is heard. I put down my coffee cup and slowly stand up. I was once a pathetic woman, abandoned by her husband on her wedding night. But now everything is different. I belong to no one. I depend on no one. I stand firm on my own feet and decide for myself what my morning will be like. My reflection in the mirror is not that of a raisin, as Adrian once called me. It is a face full of the splendor of life, the face of a woman who overcame a storm, put down deep roots, and is ready to bloom with her own unique flower. Yes, let's go. A new client awaits us. I pick up my bag, look ahead, and open the door. A radiant world awaits me. On my wedding night, The moment he walked out that door, I found not a stolen happiness, but a true and limitless freedom that will accompany me for my entire life.